Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Maddrey, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
I'm Valerie Comer, and this is Cooney.
our favorite host, the kitty.
Yes.
Today, since we are close to St. Patrick's Day, when the whole world is at least a little bit Irish, we are going to talk about books set in Ireland. We figured, makes sense, right?
Why not?
They don't have to be there for the whole time. So just something that gives us a little taste of the Emerald Isle as part of the story. Have either of you been to Ireland outside the pages of a book? Narelle, Valerie?
I haven't, although I'd love to go because when I was researching family history, so I have a great grandmother that was born in Belfast and has a few siblings, and folklore in the family is that her parents and brother were killed in the fighting on the streets in Belfast. I think someone was a policeman. And so she ended up migrating to Australia with two of her sisters. And when we went back to look at the family tree, because she was Protestant, the record keeping is just not very good. So we couldn't actually track back beyond, I think, a birth certificate in the family. So I'd love to go to Belfast and do some digging around, just out of curiosity. Absolutely. To discover some Irish roots.
Cool. Valerie?
That's really interesting. I do not have any Irish roots at all, but the photos are gorgeous and the stories are interesting, and that accent. I mean, like, I could listen to that all day.
Yeah.
So yeah, if somebody handed me a plane ticket, and there was no COVID in the world, then off we'd go. Sure, sounds great. I'd love to go.
Okay.
We should, plan a girls' trip one weekend.
I'm down with that. Maybe not.
Except I'll be traveling all weekend, but ignoring that little technicality.
Maybe we could stay for like 2 weeks because it takes a while to get over there.
Yeah.
And then to acclimatize to the time change.
Yeah. All that.
Oh, I know. Just a minor thing, a little getaway.
So I have been twice. I guess I'm the lucky one today. I love it. I want to go back. My dad laughs at me because he's like, if you could go, I'm like, Ireland. He's like, you've already been twice. I'm like, don't care. Would go back. And that could be my only vacation destination, and I would be okay with that. It's fantastic. My husband's family has Irish roots. My mom's family is Scots Irish, which I don't think the Irish, that's those Scottish Presbyterians who came over and were not particularly nice. So, I don't think I get to claim it, but my husband's family is. So that's kind of fun. All right. Well, we'll add it to our bucket list to go. I like that 2-week girls trip to Ireland, when we're all gazillionaires from our books. We'll make that happen for sure. Spouses allowed.
Good.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mine would like to see it too.
Yeah.
So would mine.
Yeah. All right. So we'll just jump in. I didn't have any questions beyond that. I was like, it's Ireland. We're going to go books. We're going to dive in.
Yeah.
Dive into books. So I'm going to go first this time. And my first, I've got several. I've got 4. So my first one that I'm going to choose is An Irish Heart by Zack. And there's Pelican Book Group, which is a small Christian press, has a series of books called Passport to Romance, and they have on their website for authors like a whole list of countries, and then there's things that they want you to include in your manuscript if you write a novella for them. And so this was clearly one that was written for the Cork. Cork is a part of Southern Ireland.
County
requirements.
County Cork.
Yes, County Cork. call that they had, but was not chosen. So, but it was fun because my book, which maybe someone else will mention, was also written for that originally. So it was fun because I could pick out the things. I'm like, oh, there's that, check. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of fun. So anyway, this is Greta Connor, and she goes to Ireland to fulfill her mother's deathbed wish. Which is just that she go to Ireland and like sort of immerse her, because she is Irish roots, like go visit the land of your ancestry kind of thing. And it turns out that in this town where she lands in Cork County is a man named Aidan, and she is apparently like his ex-girlfriend's doppelganger. So she, you know, could be twins. Like, and so he feels like, he thinks that every time he sees her, they bump in or they have an interaction, he's trying to call her out. He thinks that this is his ex playing some sort of stupid game to try and get him back, like acting like, no, I'm an American, I'm here on holiday. And he's like, give it up. You know, we're done. We're through. This is not happening. And so it's really kind of fun. So there's some sort of enemies to lovers in there. There's some opposite attract. There's the mistaken identity. It's really cute and well done. And just enough Irish flavor to make you feel like you took a little vacation while still in your chair. Really cute.
I did not come across that one.
Okay.
That sounds
Nor did
interesting, though.
I feel like I see it on sale around St. Patrick's Day often. So if you are interested, go look it up. She might have it on sale or free because it is near St. Patrick's Day. So
I might do that.
Yeah. Narelle, what's your first one?
Well, my first one is Once Upon an Irish Summer by Lisa T. Bergren. And I love.
Is that the same one that's on the very top of my list? That one?
It probably is, but I'm surprised it's on the top of your list because it's such a big focus on history, this book.
Okay.
So yeah, I actually didn't think Valerie would pick it. I know she's talked about some of Lisa's books before, but anyway, so Fiona's a PhD student doing her thesis in history. And she's an American from Boston going to university there, or college. I keep calling it university. Ignore my confusion with terminology. And so she heads over to Western Ireland for the summer because she's researching Grace O'Malley, who was a real life pirate queen. She was known as in the 16th century. And one of the things that she was famous for is she had a meeting with Queen Elizabeth I and actually walked away and wasn't sort of sent to the gallows and hung, because she was obviously a pirate and had a whole lot of interesting things that she oversaw or did herself. So there's a lot of legend around her. And she basically ran the western part of Ireland and was very involved with the Spanish who were doing fishing. And for a woman in that patriarchal society, that's rather remarkable. Yeah. So I love the history element of this book. So she's basically researching Grace O'Malley and looking at her as a strong, independent woman and doing all this stuff back in the 16th century. So she's gone to West Ireland, of course, where Grace was born and lived and died and all the rest of it. And so she ends up heading to this farm and is completely confused about driving on the wrong side of the road. And I so get that. Although I got confused because the wrong side of the road for her is the right side of the road for me. So that was quite hilarious reading that first chapter, because I'm like, she's talking about moving left and right. I'm like, I'm so confused. I would be fine in Ireland. We drive on the correct side of the road. So I'd be sweet. But anyway, so she ends up staying on a farm for 3 months. And the hero in the story, Rory O'Malley, is actually a descendant of Grace O'Malley, the pirate queen. And he's there for the summer helping out his grandfather on the farm, and he's got his great uncle there who is struggling with Alzheimer, dementia type issues as well. And his grandfather is determined that he's not going to be sent to an aged care facility. He's going to look after him until they both have their last breaths. And so there's a lot of complications related to that. And he's one of those strong men that I can do everything. I don't need help. It's all good, but it's not, if that makes sense. So that's another side aspect of the story. And so she's got this little cottage to stay in, and she's basically researching and trying to find out what was actually going on. It's like, I've got to near the end of my PhD, but I'm not quite sure exactly what's happening and what I need to do. I'm missing something, and she's doing her research. And I just loved the travel around Ireland, the look at the history. There's also another TV host that has been doing some work on this, and she meets another academic who's been doing some work on it. And it's a really fun, interesting story. And if you're a history buff like I am, like I love reading to learn about history. I'll read historical romance purely because I'm interested in the historical location and setting. Then you'll absolutely love this book. It was a lot of fun. So what does Val think?
And if you, my cat thinks I shouldn't talk about it, so down she goes. I was going to say that even if you don't generally pick up historical romance, you might enjoy it. There is no historical romance in the book.
No, it's contemporary.
And it's not a time slip. It is purely, what's her name? Fiona and Rory, right?
Yeah.
It's purely their time period and their romance. And he doesn't really want to help her. He doesn't, it's not that he thinks she shouldn't be snooping in the family business or anything like that. He just doesn't want to get involved. He's had his heart broken before, you know how that goes, and he's just not going to go there again. But she keeps doing things like meeting this television host that he's really suspicious of that guy. And so he just keeps kind of showing up because he can't just let this naive girl go off. And that makes it sound like she's an 18-year-old airhead, and she is not.
Okay.
But I did enjoy the historical aspects. I mean, this, it's pirates. Come on. Yeah. Right? I mean, that was cool. And I didn't know that much about that time period because I don't read a lot of historical, but I did enjoy that. And the glimpses of Ireland were very interesting, and the romance was good. So, yeah.
Cool. I want to read it because I love Grace O'Malley. The very few historical fiction, just like pure historical fiction books that I have that aren't time slip, are about her. They're not
okay,
but there are a couple really good.
I've never heard of her before. In fact, I wondered at first if she was a fictional character as well, and then I looked into it a bit more and found out that she was not. In fact,
no, yeah,
that she was real.
Yeah, and it was clever.
I was hesitant to pick it up too because I think of Lisa T. Bergren as not a contemporary romance author.
Okay,
but I was looking at the blurb on Amazon, and I thought, no, I think this will work for me. And I did enjoy her River of Time or whatever it was called in Tuscany, but it was definitely not contemporary romance. So
yeah. And the other aspect of the story I liked was that he was a school teacher, history teacher now, but he'd previously been an aid worker in Afghanistan, and he'd come back with a leg injury. So he was getting around on a cane. So it wasn't actually easy for him to help his grandfather because he did have some mobility issues that he had to overcome
help her
as well.
Either.
Yeah. To walk, he can't just go walking for miles and miles and miles and not have any issues with that. And he also had PTSD from things that had happened in Afghanistan. And I thought that was really well done in the story, the way that was handled too.
Cool.
Yeah,
very cool. Valerie, you want to go with your
your
true second?
My true second is Irish Encounter by Hope Toller Dougherty. I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. This is kind of a middle-aged romance. Widow Ellen is in Galway. Her daughter, she and her husband had visited once years before. He is now deceased, and their daughter is in college in Ireland. And so she decides to go visit her daughter, and she has a yarn shop. And so she's going to she's going to look for yarn suppliers while she's there. She's got a business and pleasure thing. And so she runs into this guy, like pretty much literally in a coffee shop. And he's very cynical. But he keeps showing up as they do in romance novels. And in this case too, like you said, it doesn't have to all take place in Ireland. This one didn't. It was maybe the first third or maybe half, didn't actually check. And then she goes back to her home, and she's got some complications in her life there, the yarn shop, her other two children who are also college age, and this life in her small town and in her church. And when they part after Ireland, the man whose name I did not write down, he was in Ireland briefly for his godson's wedding, but he had been working on a project in Africa. So when they both leave Ireland, he's off to Africa, she's off to the US, and she doesn't hear from him for quite a while. So it's there's quite a bit of time passes in there and before they get back together, and then the resolutions and so forth as they, I mean, we're talking 3 continents here, right? I mean, it's not just let's fall in love. Okay, it's all wonderful now. You know, your house or mine. Yeah, there was a lot of kind of logistics in that whole thing as well. But I enjoyed it. So yeah, would recommend that one.
It's funny. I have read that one. Once you started talking about it, I was like, wait, is this the one? I looked for this one and I couldn't for the life of me figure out what it was called. I loved the trip that she took while she was in Ireland to the sheep farm.
Yes.
That was so fun and so very Ireland. It was really delightful. So yeah.
She went to 2 or 3 different ones, and some the owners were just so welcoming and charming, and another one the guy's just like, well, you can follow me if you want, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And stomps off into his barn, and she's like, what do I do? She was kind of offended by him, but well, I mean, she was here for a reason, so she did, and it was the most amazing yarn and all that. So yeah, it was fun from that point of view as well, which is just a minor sideline really to that part of the trip. But yeah, that was fun.
Good choice. All right, so my second one, because that was, I guess, just our first round. So my second one, I'm going to choose Ginger and Brad's House by Marion Ueckermann. It is
that was on my list.
Of course it was. Second Chance, set in Ireland. Ginger returns to Ireland because her mother is ill, and she bumps into Brad, who had betrayed her when they were dating teenagers. And he's a baker. He bakes wedding cakes, and she does something. She's
a musician.
Yes, thank you. I'm like, I know she does something with weddings.
Player, maybe something.
Flute,
and she'd been in Australia before she goes back to Ireland as well.
Yes.
Yep.
And so they both end up getting hired for, the same weddings. And so they keep bumping into each other. And then there's a gingerbread house decorating contest. And she's like determined to win. And he is determined to win her. And it's fun. This is again a little older.
It was a sweet.
Yeah, sweet.
Get that,
yes.
Gingerbread. Yeah.
See what you did there.
Good.
See what you did there.
Good.
It's really cute and fun, and just little pieces of Ireland, enough to make it so that it couldn't have been set anywhere else. Which to me is kind of my bar for something that's supposed to be set in a specific place. Like
right.
if there's not enough of that place that it has to be there, then it could have been set in Ohio and no one would care, but that is not the case here. This would not work in Ohio. So yeah. Did you want to add to that, Narelle?
No, I think you've pretty much covered it. I had it down, I think it's number 4 on my list, because I figured one of you guys would talk about it. And I haven't read it for about 4 or 5 years, so I'm a bit hazy on the details. I need to reread it.
I had forgotten that it was Ireland.
Yeah.
And
I looked it up I was like, wasn't that one? And I was like digging through my list of books. I'm like, yes, it was. Okay. Because it's been a while. All right, what's your second one then, Narelle?
I will jump to Kinsale Kisses by Elizabeth Maddrey. So I'm not going to talk. I've spoken about this book at least twice in the past in previous episodes. So if you go searching through the show notes, you'll find this book. Right? If you haven't listened to those episodes, go find them in the history of the backlog of our 60-something episodes. Yes, but I love this story. It was so fun. And she's an American she's lost her parents and she's gone to Ireland, and her aunt has a B&B, and so she thinks she's going to help her aunt, but really her aunt doesn't need help, and she's a very capable Irish woman who runs rings around everybody. And he was a CEO or owner of a software company, and for a bunch of reasons sold up and packed up his life and moved over to Ireland from the States as well. And he's wandering around with his guitar by memory. He plays, I think it's guitar. Yeah. Yep. And doing gigs at pubs and stuff. And I just love this story. I mean, we have pubs in Australia that are different to Irish pubs and English pubs, but they definitely have roots that go back to those places. So that whole sort of pub thing, I just think is really fun as well.
And she was attracted to him, right? But
yeah,
obviously some guy who just like wanders around and makes music in pubs is not worthy of her notice.
Yes. No, he sings for his supper. She's not interested in basically a gypsy.
I understand that.
Yeah.
You know, she wants a guy with a little more ambition in life.
Yeah.
She doesn't realize that he's been there, done that, and cashed out.
Got the t-shirt.
Yeah. So I'm glad you published that and didn't leave it in the bottom drawer after it wasn't in the Passport for Love series.
Yeah.
Your Passport for Romance.
Was one that you got glimpses of a few different Irish places, right? Yeah. Excuse me. Not all just like one little town.
No, she does some traveling because her aunt forces her to, basically. Yeah.
Go, Auntie.
And I love the traveling. Like, it's so fun. It's all around County Cork, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that, and going to the castles, and it's just I think because we've been so travel deprived, particularly in Australia where we've been locked up for a couple of years really, it's just the thought of being able to travel via a movie or a book is just super exciting, because we can't just go and buy a ticket and get a visa and jump on a plane. So one day we'll be able to do that. Look forward to it.
That's the hope, right? For sure.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. What's number 2 for you, Valerie?
Jenny B. Jones.
Okay.
There You'll Find Me. It's an older title, and it's actually more new adult than CCR. 18-year-old Finley decides to go to Ireland to honor her dead brother, hoping for inspiration to complete her audition for music school. And so she's young. It's a young love kind of story. She meets Beckett on the plane. He's an actor and a bad boy. He's on his way to Ireland to make a movie, I believe. Can't remember. Anyways, he's used to teens falling all over him, and she does not. So it causes him to offer her a deal. He'll show her around and stuff if she will just pretend to be his girlfriend and keep all the crazies away.
Nice.
Now, this one I think was made into a movie, but I forgot to look up what the movie is called.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same title.
It is.
And I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen the movie because
I'm thinking
Canada.
Finding Me, but I could be wrong.
Maybe. But if I can get my hands on that sometime, I'll watch it. But not every movie comes to Amazon Prime in Canada.
Yeah.
Can I say, or the local theater, which also has been closed a whole lot in the last 2 years.
I haven't seen the movie. I heard there's a lot of chatter on social media about it.
Yeah, there was for a while, a year or two ago. It's been a bit, and I haven't read this book since it first came out, which is probably more than 10 years. But when I was thinking,
Finding You is the movie.
Yeah.
Which one?
Finding You is the movie.
Okay. But when I started thinking, what have I read that's set in Ireland? I remembered this. So to me, that's measure of a tale well told, to remember 10 or more years later that you read it and liked it.
The movie says 2011. So yeah, it's been out there a while.
Yeah, 11 years.
Yeah, cool. I haven't read that one. It sounds fun though. I'm gonna have to see if I can
He's
find
got
it.
a very unique and cheeky voice.
Yeah, cool.
Irish. You expect that to see
Yes.
Irish.
Well, yeah, no, Jenny B. Jones does. I mean,
Oh, okay.
has a definite way with words. I read Save the Date by her, which is about Finley's brother, not the dead one. And so that one had come out first, and Finley was a minor character in it. So I probably wouldn't have picked up the young adult book so much, but because I already knew her from the other one, I did, and I really enjoyed it. So
Cool.
And then the fact that it was set in Ireland didn't hurt.
Yeah.
No, indeed. All right, I have another one. Do you guys want to go another round? We've got the time.
Sure, go for it.
Okay. All right. So I will choose Spring's Promise, also by Marion Ueckermann. It may not count because it is set in 1972. So I don't know if we consider that historical or contemporary. Technically, genre rules say that it's contemporary, but
Contemptical?
what?
Contemptible?
There we go.
Yeah, I didn't choose this one because it was 1972, and I thought, oh well, I get in trouble.
Storm entry. I don't know.
I just break the rules. I'm like, I don't care.
Well, you made the rules, so I guess you break them then.
So it is set in 1972, but and it's in Northern Ireland. And that is honestly what I loved about it, is because that was sort of I want to say the height, but it certainly was in the middle of all of the tension and the fighting in Northern Ireland during that time. And that is in fact a big part of the plot. And so that's not something I have read a lot about. And so I enjoyed getting a glimpse of the tensions and the fighting and the, what it was to live where there were, curbs blocking off where you could or couldn't go based on, your beliefs. So it was well written. And, of course it's people from, opposite sides of the fight who are falling in love, because it has to be. And Marion just did a fantastic job with it, I believe, because I know she lived in Ireland, and I believe she lived in Northern Ireland for some time during, so she had firsthand experience of what living there was. So, and it shows, I think, in that one. I really, really enjoyed that one. So, Narelle, what's your next one?
My next one this is my last one, is Star Rising by Janet W. Ferguson, which I have also spoken about in a couple of previous episodes. So you can go check the show notes if you haven't listened to it. But this to me was like the ultimate island vacation romance story. And Star is basically accompanying her employer, who's an older lady, a senior, I should say, and who is... her dying wish basically is to go to Ireland and do a tour. So she's basically working and being her, doing her personal care and looking after her. And her employer's nephew is extremely suspicious of Star and thinks, are you trying to get my aunt's money, blah, blah, blah. So he decides to tag along on the tour, and it's just hilarious. It's a lot of fun moments, and it's the vacation that you'd love to take, but at the same time, there's parts of that vacation you certainly don't want to be on and don't want to take as well. So if you want to see some of probably the touristy sort of highlights of Ireland, it's a really good read. Yeah. With a really good message, being a Janet book as well. She always has a good spiritual message in her stories. Yep.
This is also my last book that I wanted to talk about. So thank you, because I didn't write down a lot of stuff other than that Janet W. Ferguson, Star Rising, because I had 3. Yeah. I figured I was good.
Yeah.
But that's what I remember strongly too, is that you got a real sense of place, as well as a very interesting and compelling romance. Yeah, it was a good story.
Yeah, you both had mentioned it enough that on the podcast that I added it and read it and really enjoyed. Yeah. Really enjoyed it as well. And yeah, her trip to Ireland is not as fun as it maybe should have been. There are lots of little mishaps, but it is really a delightful story. For sure. All right, I feel like you can't talk about romance in Ireland without at least mentioning a couple of movies.
I think you probably could.
You think you could? Okay, you'd be willing to take that risk. Narelle and I feel like maybe we need to mention a couple of movies. And
do you?
We do.
Yes.
If anything, we have to mention Pierce Brosnan. Like, you can't mention romance in Ireland and not at least just mention his name, like, because women of a certain age all love Pierce Brosnan. So it's a pretty big age range. So, but we all fit in that range. But there are two that stuck out to me as just favorites. My first is Leap Year, which is Amy Adams and Matthew Good. There's a thing in Ireland that on leap day, February 29th, their women can propose marriage. And so she's been waiting for her boyfriend to propose, and he's just not. But he has this business trip to Ireland that's going to be over leap year. And so she's like, well, by golly, I'm going to join you on this trip, and I'm going to propose. And it's just like comedy of errors ensues, as it must for romantic comedy. And she ends up needing help from Declan, who is a local pub owner. And she, as you do, you ultimately realize that the business focused, won't commit jerk that you were in love with, or you thought you were in love with, is actually not the right man for you. But this local pub owner in Ireland are what has captured your heart. So
obviously.
And then also Laws of Attraction, which is Pierce Brosnan.
Yes.
And Julianne Moore, I believe. And they are divorce attorneys who have their clients fighting over the ownership of an Irish castle. And so they determine that they're going to go to the castle, because neither of them will move out, because they want to make sure that they get this castle in the divorce. And so they have to go to Ireland to try and negotiate this divorce. And it turns out that Pierce and Julianne had at one time been an item and had gotten married in Ireland, but were not acknowledging it. And some fun things turn up as a result of that as well. But it's Pierce Brosnan. So
yes.
Did you have others, Narelle? That
Well, we were on a Unity ticket with our order, because that was the order I had down. Okay. But the third one I have not watched this movie for a very long time, so I can't even really tell you much about it. But I do remember loving this movie, and it's Circle of Friends with Minnie Driver and Chris O'Donnell. Okay. And I think Maeve Binchy, if I'm getting it right, was based on one of her books. Okay. And it was a lovely movie that had all the Irish things that you look for in it as well. So that would be the one I would add to go and look for. Cool. Older movie. I'm showing my age.
Okay, that's okay. Pierce Brosnan did a couple that he even, I think, wrote and produced, but they didn't qualify as romantic movies, so I didn't include them. But But again, my fascination with Pierce Brosnan knows no bounds. So
and Ireland.
He's my Richard Gere. Narelle has Richard Gere, and I have Pierce Brosnan. So I even enjoy Mamma Mia, though everyone says he can't sing. I didn't think he was that bad. So
that's true devotion.
It is. All right. Final thoughts on Ireland, Irish romance.
Well, I'm wondering when we're going to set up this trip.
Well, we
Yes.
yes,
That's my final thought.
Yes.
Is when are we doing this?
I think we have to wait for that whole gazillionaire because of book royalties thing.
Oh, so not next week
Not next week, sadly. No.
or next year.
Yeah, probably not
Probably.
next year. Sorry. It would be nice.
At least you can leave the country. I think we'll be able to
You
leave.
can't get back in.
I don't even know if you can get into Ireland. Like, so even if you could leave the country, they might not
Yeah.
let you in. So
True.
there's no way to
Okay.
know. Yeah.
But definitely
add
a
that.
summer. We need to go during summer, not winter. Yeah.
My 2 trips were both in February and it actually was quite nice.
Okay.
So, yeah. I am not opposed to shoulder season at all. So,
Well, we'll keep that in mind.
okay.
Yes.
All right, good. So let us know what we missed. If you have an Irish CCR that we didn't get to, please let us know in the comments, and or movie, because Valerie is always looking for movie ideas.
No, she's not.
Yes, she is.
She just doesn't know it, is what it
Has
is.
to be on Amazon Prime though.
Yeah,
In
Yeah.
Canada.
in Canada.
Good luck with that.
Oh, all
Not much
right.
there.
So leave us a comment and let us know. And if you are on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And we will look forward to seeing you next week. In the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.